This is not the internet. This is the metaverse. Hello pioneers. Today we're going to take a look at the recent home screen updates. Now the first one we got was this first 100 days of open network, right? And there was a lot of things covered in this, and really I could have made a whole video on this myself, but I find these things just to be a bit of fluff, a bit of time wasters, so there's a lot of things in there. You can look at it yourself and all that, but nothing really that important. The one we want to cover is this home screen update that we got a day later, right? And this one was to do with GenAI and why Nicolas was at the Consensus 2025. And this really got our attention, didn't it, right? So let's take a look at this. Now, I had a video on this when we did the consensus, and I covered a lot of things, what was going on there. But we're going to take a deeper dive this week and get a lot more information out of it. So we know that Nicolas went to consensus. He was part of this AI plus blockchain infrastructure, right, to unleash mainstream adoption panel. And along with him was the NearAI guy, ReadyAI, OG Labs, and then later on was added KiteAI, and the reason was that the OG Labs guy pulled out. I've heard some people had trouble with visas, so maybe that was the issue. So I'm going to take a look at those guys. I'm also going to add in Stanford HAI, because we always know there's connections with Stanford. And there was also this little hidden one with Recall sitting up the top here, right? So we're going to take a look at Recall as well. So we know that OpenAI and ChatGPT is one of these big GenAI programs out there that everyone uses. And but if we look at the social chain privacy policy, right, we can see here that Pi Network is using ChatGPT as part of the KYC process, right? So we kind of got to give that some merit, that that's in the background, it's already being used, and that possibility there might be a partnership there, right? Now, I wouldn't normally say that OpenAI was a contender, right? Because it's not using any sort of the agentic properties that agents provide and all that. But as you see down here, the update, right, they're now saying that they're actually using these models, and so that's now part of it, because you need that connectivity to actually execute tasks. Right, now, I've covered these MCP, right, model context protocols before in the video I did with Stella and Kale, right? You know that I've been following Tyler a lot. He's been using these models to create tokens by using the current day's news and all that type of thing. And that's just one of these things that these agents can perform. We also know that OpenAI, they've got a big government push, right, with this big $500 billion investment, right, that they're going to be rolling out things. So, we can't sort of just put ChatGPT by the wayside, right? So I just wanted to point that out as well. Now, coming back to this privacy policy, right? It says in here, how there's going to be other contenders for the AI, right? So that's why we're sort of opening this up, right? Because we've already gotten this information, right? So this is where it ties into the home screen update. And so for this video, I'm going to cover these things, right? So these are the ones we're going to look at, check them out. There's a few other little things at the end there that are quite important, a lot of tie-ins there with Stanford and all that. And we'll see what we can deduce, what possible announcements we could get for partnerships for Pi2Day. The first one to cover is Recall, right? So they're build and discover smarter agents, okay? So they're doing a thing called compete to earn, right? So with all these agents, they're getting them to compete against each other so that you can see how well they perform, and ultimately to give them a agent ranking, right? So this is kind of like Google PageRanks in the past, right? So these guys aren't so much doing agents themselves. They're actually checking all the agents out, giving them tasks and seeing how they compete against each other to ultimately give everyone an idea of how well they perform, right? So this is a great service and all that. So I don't think Recall is going to be the one that we're going to be partnering with, but yeah, certainly a very good service that they're providing. So next we've got Ready AI. Okay, turn your data into AI-powered insights. Okay, now David Fields, right now he's got a background with Disney and all that. You know, he did the Pixar acquisition and all that, so he's quite an important guy. And this company that he's done now is mostly for enterprise, right? That's what he was focusing, right? So if you don't know the difference between enterprise and personal use, enterprise is all for company-wide stuff, right? Banking, trade, everything, right? So that's what he's focusing on, right? So one of the things he says about here is they can cut down the expenses by leveraging AI-driven data structuring, right? So data structuring is something he's very, very important on. Right, reducing the need for costly manual labour, right? We've all heard about this. AI is going to be replacing our jobs. Get used to it. That's just how it's going to be. And yeah, right. So if you're a company out there and you're not using these AI agents, right, especially things like, you know, data analysis and all that, right? All those jobs are going to be done by AI, right? So that's what this guy's doing. Really, really important. The thing I took away, right, when you see these little grey boxes, is what my own personal comments from the consensus video, right? Enterprises are skeptical of AI using their data to teach other models, right? So that means that, you know, they're worried about them teaching their competitors, okay, right? So that was just a concern that he highlighted, and rightfully so, right? Next we have NearAI, right? Building user-owned AI, right? And you'll see this theme throughout this as being user-owned data, right? Giving permission for your data and everything, okay? So the future of AI is yet unwritten. It's time to take a stand. It's time for user-owned AI, right? So like I said, it's all this user-centric thing, right? So it's all iterated all throughout this, okay? My take, right, with Nicolas, right, he was talking about how with GenAI it's getting harder and harder to tell between a real human and AI. That's why he's talking about the KYC and identity verification, right, biometrics and everything like this. So you can tell the difference between 1,000 fake bots and 1,000 real humans, okay? This is extremely helpful when you want to meritocratically and fairly distribute value, right? It's always talking about this, how distributing value, right? So it's not just in one sort of, one person's hands or one company's hands, right? And this is where he says it here, right? So as more and more work is done by agents and AI, it's important that the value is not just controlled by a few individuals or companies, right? So this is something Nicolas was very, very adamant about. NearAI, right? So they've got this AITP, which is sort of one of their flagship things, right? How agents can pass structural data, right? Structural data again, right, to other agents, okay? One thing I just thought funny about this was that, you know, in 2016, I was shopping around this very thing, right, to VCs, and I didn't get any interest back there. And now we're nearly 10 years later, and yeah, this is exactly what we have now is AI agents talking to each other and doing tasks together, right? So something I just thought was funny. So this AITP protocol, right? This is agents interaction and transaction protocol, right? So like I said, right, this agents talking to agents, right? Very, very cool stuff. And the thing with NearAI, they said AI agents are not subject to the use of behavioural factors, right? Where we used to, you know, well, more susceptible to making payments on a monthly basis, right? Whereas with agents, right, you can use micropayments, okay, right? So this is really, really cool. And this is what I was saying, you know, in previous videos about why we've got these 7 zeros, right? And it's purely because of this. We're going to be doing these micropayments for the AI agents. Okay. Now, some points here I sort of had questions about was like, how do micropayments perform with gas fees, right? Because as we know, the gas fees are a lot higher than that. And I thought maybe that layer 2s might help provide this functionality, right? So just a couple of little things to think about there. With this, right, so, I made a post about, the announcement of the decentralized AI. We know Nicolas in the past wanted to do this, and I just thought it was another funny thing that, I had this come up posted under this post, and as you can see here, this is an automated post, right? So an AI agent actually did this, right? And this is something that's on Near protocol, right? So on the NearAI, right, which is what we're talking about, right? And you see here that it's simp to earn, right? So there's another to earn thing that's available out there. Next one is KiteAI, and as we know, this was a late addition to the talk. And if you see here, they've got a relationship with the NearAI, right, which is probably why she got invited, I think, because she actually used to work for the Near protocol and all that back in the day. So I'm pretty sure she's got ties back there, so I'm pretty sure that's how she got invited. But still, KiteAI used to be called Zeta Block, right? So they've pivoted their name, right? And they can, things like create without limits, okay, that's good. Fair value and attribution, right? So this is this fair value again, right? So this is a theme that kept on popping up, right? Scale globally, coordinate seamlessly, okay? So this is all good. So one of the things with that come out of the talk that KiteAI talked about was the reporting of our data being used by other LLMs so that we're aware of it, we get paid for it and all that, right? So that's a very good thing that they're looking at providing. Agents on-chain become trackable with their creation and implementation. With smart contracts, they can be interacted with by the use of programmable logic in the form of service level agreements. Okay, so service level agreements are what enterprise companies use all the time between their departments and all that. Things like, when you raise a ticket, they've got to respond in a certain time, they've got to raise it to level 3 support at a certain time, right? You always have these agreements in place, right? So they're looking at doing these SLAs through the agents, okay? So that's cool. Checks the performance of agents as well as dispute resolutions, right? When you get a dispute with someone, right, you need to be able to resolve that. That's one thing that GenAI is going to be doing, okay? Agents can't access private bank accounts or credit cards, but with payment rails, right? Payment rails, that's Pi network, things like that. And stable coins, it's a natural thing for GenAI agents, okay? So they're going to be using stable coins and payment rails, right, to be doing all these micropayments and all that, right? So that's something that we're really going to take notice of. The next one is the guy that didn't do the talk, right? He was from OG Labs, okay? So they're doing modular L1 combines, okay? So this is more infrastructure, right? So this is all DePIN, right? Decentralized physical networks, okay? So they're providing more the infrastructure and the hardware and all that type of thing that you'll be able to build your applications on, right? So I kind of think that these guys probably won't be the ones that will be partnering, right? But maybe they will be used as part of some of the other things, because I think NearAI and KiteAI are sort of, they're sort of standouts at the moment. Now, with Michael here, right, there is a connection back to Stanford University, right? He went to Stanford University, and he not only went there, he's actually an instructor there, right? And he is until his current day, according to his LinkedIn, right? So that's pretty formative. He's also received StartX funding before, right? So that's another Stanford connection, right? And he's a venture partner, angel investor at Pioneer, right? Pioneer Fund, okay? So, we always see these Pioneer things we want to take notice of, right? So just a few little connections there I thought were interesting. Stanford HAI, right? Now, I think that this is a very good candidate, obviously, because we've got all these Stanford connections, right? We see this all the time. They're obviously involved in a lot of things, okay? So, I think this is very important. I covered this in the other video. You can see that, Pi's sort of born out of StartX and all that. Nicolas is still, a professor there and all that, and on these committees and all that. So there's definitely a very strong connection back there still. So what was my takeaway from Consensus 2025? All right. So things they were always talking about was distribution of value, decentralization of data, stable coins, and rewarding of data originators, okay? These are the main things that I took away from it, okay? So stable coins, right? This is something that I'm expecting to come to Pi Network at some stage. I've covered this many times in the past. I think USDC is going to come across. We know it's on Stellar already. It's on many chains, right? Circle is a huge company in the world, right? And they just listed on the stock exchange in New York, and obviously they've just passed the Genius Act, which is the Stablecoin Act, isn't it, right? So stablecoins are going to be huge, okay? With Stellar, they just put on Pi USD from PayPal, right? So this is another stablecoin that's come on board, and when it's called Pi USD, we always get another one of those coincidences, don't we, with Pi Network. The Sam from the CoinDesk moderator, right? He said that stablecoins plus agents are the future of commerce on the internet. Okay, so that was a pretty standout statement, I thought. With NearAI, right, so their AI agents can now buy USDC directly through HTTP requests, okay, so this is something more for NearAI. And with KiteAI, right, one of their team members, right, he used to be at PayPal, right, doing Pi USD, okay, so there's a lot of connections here, right, so I think NearAI is, or Kite, I think these guys are going to be very central and could well be a partnership. Now, obviously we've had this sort of cryptic graphic on our screen, haven't we, right? And what is this all about, right? So in the past we've seen Dianji, how he put these things for Banksa, okay? Remember that partnership that was released, right? So he had that cryptic little post. Now, if we get Pi plus and this star symbol, what do we get, right? What is this sort of pointing towards, right? Because it's obviously meaningful. Right, well, it could be Gemini, right? We've got the same icon there, right? So Gemini AI is out there. This is Google's AI, right? Possibly it could be Gemini, right? Now, I went off to Gemini and I said hello to it and I said, hey, what do you know about this partnership, right? Now, obviously, he wasn't going to say, hey, yeah, we're going to be partnered with him on Pi2Day. It's going to be announced, right? So it denied it all and doesn't know anything about it, right? But I just thought that was a little bit of fun to do. We've got, Google's made a partnership with this Intellect Labs as well, right? So they've got doing all this decentralized human network in the age of AI, right? So decentralized human network, okay? This is exactly what Pi is building, right? This is what, it's building up with all the followers, 60 million followers so far. This is what everyone's sort of combining now with all these AI agents, right? So the partnership announcement is going to be very exciting. With Stanford, okay, is there any sort of thing? I tried to do a search to see if there was any Gemini link with Stanford, okay. You see here, funny enough, they've got the same sort of icon up in the corner there that I noticed. But you see here that they actually are using Google Gemini. Now, this isn't a partnership or anything like that. It's just a playground for their students to use and get used to AI, right? So, but that's some sort of link that I found there. Going down further in this article, though, I've come across this Russ Altman, okay? And Russ Altman, right, is associated with the Stanford HAI, okay? Now, what caught my eye about this was because his name is Altman, right? So I was curious about whether he was actually related to Sam Altman. Now, I haven't made any connection there, but with Sam Altman, you can see here, he actually did go to Stanford University as well, right? So we seem to be getting a lot of all these connections and coincidences, don't we, you know? So, yeah, I don't know what that's all about, just something I noticed. Okay, so that's for the video. What conclusions can we come of this, right? Well, pretty well none, right? We're just going to have to wait till next week for Pi2Day and see what the announcement is, right? But that was just, I wanted to do a very in-depth coverage of everything, and so you get a very good analysis of what was actually said at consensus, because obviously there's going to be some connection with the guys that Nicolas did the talk with, right? So I can only assume that some sort of partnership's going to form there. You see there's other connections through Stanford and Stanford HAI. They're kind of hinting at Google Gemini. We know that we use Google servers for running the core team nodes, right? So there's that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you, you know. It's all very cryptic, you know. It's another announcement of an announcement. And yeah, let's just wait for next Saturday and get some really good news. And I would like to see some other announcements as well, right? That'd be fantastic. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for what's about to come up, right? So yeah, hodl your pie and we'll watch this space, right? So that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you later.